Hey guys, long time no see. I'm back after some issues with my internet, whatever. I decided to make some more videos on this channel. I got some motivation to post daily once again because I want to grow the channel. I want to make you guys understand more things about League, more things about the game, more things about builds, stuff that you just don't see on other channels because this is a unique opportunity. If you guys don't know me, I'm a challenger jungler and I can show you some interesting stuff that isn't just some random troll pick BS. Stuff that you can actually use in your games because I think it's pretty well thought out. Either way, I've been playing a lot of SYLAS because it's one of my favorite champions since release. Unfortunately, it hasn't been viable for a very long time. And the way I like to play SYLAS, we will go over a lot of information in this video, and I will be posting several SYLAS videos probably, is by focusing on a Bruiser build, the durability, a sustained pattern. I don't like to play SYLAS, Flippy, Dark Harvest, Electrocute, go in, maybe miss my E, maybe kill my target, but then die. I think SYLAS is a lot more oppressive when this character is somewhat unkillable, uses his strengths as Bruiser, his base damage, his sustain, his high base stats, armor, HP per level, all that stuff is very high. But let's just get into the video so you can see some gameplay as well. There's a lot of stuff to do with the skill order, the builds, with the runes, and with just the way I approach the game when I play this character. So anyways, if you look at my runes, just to be more specific, so you understand some stuff about the clear, we go haste sharp, because the breakpoint of the clear is very good. You can get a skill up faster, which makes the camp be cleared faster, maybe roughly the same as going some attack speed or adaptive. But this also scales a lot better, because of course I'm going for multiple rotations of champions. We use the E at 127, and you'll see right here that because I'm playing CDR, my E is coming back up just in time, so I can use it on the Krag. The clear is nerfed, unfortunately SYLAS got nerfed, but it doesn't change the breakpoints too much. I have to use an extra auto attack on the red buff there. So maybe a few seconds I'm losing overall the clear. For example, the Raptors is the exact same as it was before the nerf, and on the Wolves it also is. If I use my E early here, then my second E comes back up so I can finish this camp off. Not a big deal. So that clear didn't change at all. On Crop and Blue buff, you're gonna lose a little bit of time, because you're just not getting that much single target damage in. Just a few extra auto attacks. Clear could have been executed a little bit better. I can save a smite for the crab. And I end up going for top crab because I just didn't have any other way to go around it. And you'll notice right away that I'm maxing my Q and I go double M2. But let's talk about the skill order a little bit so you guys fully understand the reasoning behind it. The Q simply has a very high amount of base damage. If you see, you hit both parts, it's 75 damage per rank. Now, most abilities in League give you like 30, 40, maybe 50 damage if it's like a really high base damage ability. So 75 on something that you can get to a pretty low cooldown is very high base damage on this ability, which speeds up the clear a lot. While the W, well, you're not gonna get a healing on camps, so you're just gonna get this 35 damage, which is less than half per rank. And if you max both, well, either of these abilities, they go to the exact same cooldown. So overall, the Q having much more base damage is gonna deal about, well, twice as much damage as skilling your W. Pretty much. I very much prefer the Q max because your clear, you will be much better, your gank potential could be improved just because you get the slow, and the slow will help you land more explosions, which is going to increase your damage by a lot. Your damage will be a lot more surprising to enemies, because they will just not expect, for example, your second Q in a fight to just nuke them, and it might even help you land some ease with the slow. Just stick to the targets. Overall, that's just what I like. And you see here, we know that Diego went for some kind of topside reveal, and I could have went for his Raptors, but I would meet him on the Raptors. On the other hand, I could ignore that, jump over the walls, take his Krags while he is doing the Raptors. That will give me level 6. Make sure I can take this camp safely. I'm playing versus a Blanc, I'm playing versus a Blitzcrank. The champions, if they collapse on you, they kill you very easily. And now I can go for this gank from behind, unspotted. And if Diego didn't skip the camp, he would be on Raptors right now. These guys would just die for free. But I did misplay this fight for a bit, and so did my teammates. The Rel, instead of peeling the AD carry and just going for bleeds, or that guy. My E was pretty bad. I'm a little bit washed. And here I made a pretty big mistake. I didn't really realize that this guy is gonna take Rel's body. It has a little bit of a range that you can take it, but I just didn't really see where Rel's corpse was, to be fair. I didn't realize that the guy got Varus sniped or whatever. I thought he's a bit more back. I was like just really tunneled on other things. So I didn't place my Blitzcrank card, which made this fight very hard. I could have probably maybe killed him. I'm not sure. It might have not mattered anyway. Either way, I flash his abilities, I kill the Blitz. I think I could have went a bit harder here. Maybe killed the Viego as well. That's not a big deal. The Q damage actually ended up surprising the Blitzcrank there, as you can see. And overall, if you max this ability, you will notice that you just clear so much smoother. You can get the CS per minute, which a lot of people complain about, especially after the nerf that SYLAS just doesn't clear that well. It's a clear issue, so on and so forth, because the max W, which doesn't even matter that much in early game to have points in the healing, because you are playing jungle in Season 15. You are mostly farming, cycling your camps, and you just want that extra clear speed and gank potential, not the sustain. We can get the sustain in mid-game, and that's pretty much it. The clear speed is too important. And here I was like pulling my red buff a bit, and it's just a mistake, because I knew that Blitzcrank showed top lane. I know they can go for this play. They have mid-prior, they have champions that are really strong at getting picks, skirmishing. I could have just maybe safely done my Raptors, save my E, Darius might run away. I got a red buff at least, but it's just not worth me dying. And then if they invade me, they take my red buff, who cares? I can just go and take these camps, and you cannot really get an answer for it. But once again, they show up top lane to gank my Ackley, and I simply just go bot side. And you'll see my item in this game is Riftmaker. Riftmaker, there's not much to explain about it, it's just pretty much the strongest AP, stat checker, fighter item, and in this game where they don't have an AD carry, when I'm playing mostly against melee champions, LeBlanc is pretty much a melee character as well, I can just like stat check these champions, not worry about any kind of utility item, and just have the most power possible in early game. Stack Conqueror, stack Riftmaker, the healing is going to be crazy, the damage is good, and the Riftmaker is an item you want to have on SYLAS in pretty much every single iteration of a full build, at least on the Bruiser version that you will see this game. I also ended up going for triple tonic. I'll just explain this real quick. If you guys are enjoying explanations, make sure to, drop a like, subscribe, check out my other channels, follow my stream. This game was streamed live, but I want to go more in depth into it because you're not going to notice all of these details by just me talking a bit about the gameplay on live, right? Like I said, we're going to have more SYLAS games anyway. But we also go for triple tonic because SYLAS gets a lot of value from every basic ability. Most people max W into E, so you already probably know that E points are also pretty good, although I like Q points the most. And then we're gonna max W for the sustain, but either way, every spell scales very well with levels. Triple tonic, gonna give you extra skill point, super valuable. It's also going to improve your early game. And for me, especially the way I play SYLAS, I'm not a very strong champion before my first item, before I max my second ability. I'm trying to just get a lot of farm, collect resources, and be strong at 2 items in mid-game. So, with triple tonic, you get some gold, you get some adaptive to help you in skirmishes. It's going to get you in a better spot to go through the early game, because I think the early game is the most fragile part of SYLAS. Like, he's not a weak early game champion, but it's definitely where stuff can go wrong with maybe invades, maybe you lose 1v1 against a stronger skirmishing jungler. Ideally, that doesn't happen, of course, and you just have like a free farm, and that's gonna be it. And you notice here, I focused on farming the camps, even though I could probably went for the dive sooner, because I prioritize the camps in general. You should go for the camps, secure them, especially because it's super relevant in this situation to get the camps from the enemy, since they were doing something on the top side to deny the camps from the Viego. And then if we can get the kills, that's a nice little bonus. Sure, Viego is gonna be a bit more behind now, this is gonna be more behind now because he misses waves. Whatever. The way I pick up my Riftmaker, and Magical Footer also very nice to get through the early game, and movement speed is super good stat on SYLAS because he doesn't have very good gap closers. His range is pretty short, he has to cast his E. It's a pretty kiteable character, you don't have like very good backline access unless you have like a Hecarim ult or Vi Malphite ult, something like that, right? Some skill shots going wide. Unless who did OTP, a little bit washed, trying to get back in shape. Complete trash can. Those abilities. You notice here I bought tier. And you might be wondering, didn't you buy tier a bit late? How are you going to stack it? Here I'm trying to secure my camps because these guys could have still invaded me. But instead they went for the dive, and now is when I punish them. Here I was once again pressured, just like they invaded me here, to play a bit safe, pay attention to where LeBlanc is, make sure Blitzcrank doesn't get a hook on me, make sure maybe I save my E. whatever. But now they went for the dive, and they exposed themselves to die. And I'll talk a bit about the tier after this play, so we just clean up a triple kill, not a big deal. Clean up this wave as well. All of these people are a little bit mad. This is like Diamond Elo. Trying to warm up my League of Legends skills. So let's talk about the tier a bit. I don't want to buy it early, because as I said, the early game is the most fragile part of SYLAS. And spiking with your first item as soon as possible is very important. If I buy tier, I am in most cases really slowing down my early game, especially if I don't get any kills. Imagine buying tier, I'm just gonna be so weak, I'm not gonna be able to fight anyone. But buying it after your first item is fine. The problem is that now you're going to stack the tier pretty late. Maybe 8, 10, 6 minutes later, which is gonna slow down your evolution on the tier item. In this case, I'm going to go for Fimbulwinter, well, Winter's Approach. And I'm buying tier later, just so you guys understand clearly, because Winter's Approach, I realized, is an item that is good without the evolution, because you get a lot of stats for a cheap price. I didn't think about it before, but 650 HP and 15 haste for a 2k gold update from tier is really nice. It's quite stat efficient, and it also scales really well because SYLAS has a very fat HP ratio that they added a while ago on his W, 10% health. That is going to be 65 HP every time I'm using W at low health. You cast a few Ws, you're just getting ruby crystals added on top of it. And then it also scales with the Riftmaker, so I like this combination of Riftmaker plus Winter's Approach. You're gonna get a bit of extra ability power. And as I said, I don't mind building Bruiser-ish tanky. You will see me buying some tank items on SYLAS, because I believe this character shines best and is most oppressive when you use your W sustain to overwhelm enemies that might not have a lot of damage. This is a perfect game for SYLAS. It's basically a free win, because Jax and Blitz are pretty much the best ultimates in the game, especially for this SYLAS Bruiser build, because you retain the passive on hit of Blitz and Jax. So I'm gonna get a lot of auto X because I'm building tanky, and I get a nuke, I get some durability, even if it's just a Blitz silence or the Jax pet armor and magic resistance, so I'm gonna be strong in that sense. And also because I'm going triple tonic, even though I'm going Q max, I'm gonna get my W maxed at level 11, not at 13. So it's gonna come online to have it fully maxed, just like people max W normally, and I'm not gonna miss out on this sustain. And what you have to judge with your SYLAS ultimate, since this cooldown doesn't matter. 1 minute, 43 seconds, you're still gonna get 1 per fight at this stage. It's still super low cooldown. So I don't care about the cooldown. What you care about is that certain ultimates have different values when you level them. For example, Viego R, just so you guys understand, if you level SYLAS R to rank 2, you are also gonna use the rank 2 Viego R, even if Viego is only 1 skill point in this ability. I'm only gonna get 4% missing health damage if I skill the ultimate. So you really have to think, is it worth getting my rank 2 based on the enemy's ultimate? Because some ultimates just don't scale very well with points. If I skill LeBlanc's R, I can get a little bit of damage, but I could get that damage plus CDR plus healing on my W, for example, just by using a few more Ws in a fight. And you're gonna have fights where you use like maybe 5 Ws, maybe 10 Ws. It really depends what kind of skirmish ends up unfolding. It's just up to chance, RNG. So most ults that just give you some flat damage, they aren't better than 1 basic skill point. And you also don't care about the cooldown. It gets trickier when you have spells like Blitz Ultimate, which actually scale really well with ranks for you, because you're gonna get 50 extra damage per hit, the AP ratio on the hit is gonna go up, the base damage goes up quite a lot, and the same thing goes with Jaxar. So I might take it at level 11, I might take it at level 12, but there are gonna be games where I'm going to leave 1 point in R until I max out all of my basic abilities, once again with triple tonic, so it's faster. And I'm only gonna have the fully maxed R in late game, which is going to matter for my cooldown, because if this is 3 ranks, I'm gonna be able to get 2, even 3 ults per teamfight a lot more consistently, or maybe in a siege situation with Baron, stuff like that. as I explained before, all basic abilities scale really well with ranks. Which, nowadays, to be fair, isn't common with a lot of characters. SYLAS is probably one of the best at just getting value from all three abilities, and people have a lot of different skill orders on this character. And here it is, the Winter's Approach. As I said, it's very cheap. 2,400 gold, 2k upgrade from tier, and I'm getting really good stats. I don't care that it's not stacked right now, eventually it's going to stack, maybe at 24, 25 minutes, and that's fine, because the item gives me what I want, which is mana, HP, and CDR. These are some of the best stats, and you might be wondering, why mana? You're playing jungle, you get mana regen, who cares about mana? Well, if you play a tanky SYLAS build like I do, you are going to need at least a mana item, which is going to be either my first or my second item. You'll see in other SYLAS videos that I will post, my most common item is Blackfire Torch, because it gives you a lot of clear speed, it's cheap, and it has mana. Also, it's like just good for DPSing. Because the W costs 90 mana, and the other spells cost quite a bit as well. And now you have to imagine, maybe you guys play Volibear, if you watch this channel, right? Volibear W is 50 mana, and you still go on Volibear in some fights. It's not super common, but there are fights where you go on Volibear, it just happens, you just spam abilities and you try to sustain. Well, SYLAS uses about twice as much mana as Volibear, and you're gonna have to use some mana for camps in between fights, which means that, especially if a fight takes place in a lane where you don't get a mana regeneration, you're just gonna go very often without blue buff. Sometimes even with blue buff, it's not enough to keep you spamming your abilities in a fight. And I kept playing this kind of Bruiser SYLAS builds, trying to play without mana, and it's just not possible. But that's fine, because a lot of mana items have other effects that are just good overall for SYLAS, such as, well, you complete this item, it already has good stats, you're gonna get a spammable shield, which synergizes well with the kit, it's not a big deal. Then you might witness this Tunneler, and you're like, bro, why are you building Tunneler? Well, this is for Sundered Sky. Why Sundered Sky? Why are you building AD on SYLAS? Well, what you have to understand about this character is that the passive has an AD ratio. So every single time you are using an ability, you are also getting an AD ratio. So when you use an E, it has an AD ratio. When you use a W, it has an AD ratio. Every spell has an AD ratio because it gives you a passive stack. As long as you can get a lot of auto-attacks through, if you actually consume your passive stacks, which you are going to be able to do on a tanky build anyway. And in this match, where enemy team has a bit of difficulty getting healing reduction, and my team has no healing, so they are less incentivized to buy healing reduction, it's gonna be even more brutal, because I have Riftmaker sustain, I have Conqueror sustain, my W plus Sundered Sky, I'm gonna be very tanky, and SYLAS's passive can also crit. The only downside is that I'm gonna miss out on a bit of AP ratio on my W compared to buying an AP item, but that is not going to be as much sustain as having Sundered Sky, and the damage is pretty similar to just having an AP item. Now in this case I could buy Bloodletter's Curse, because my team is heavy magic damage, and I usually like to buy about just one tank item. Like the first should be AP, of course, for the clear speed and just damage in fights. Then the second item could be something tanky, so you're really oppressive at like level 11 spike with your both Q and W maxed. But then third item, I like to buy a bit more damage, just kind of a bruiserish item, Bloodletters, maybe Cosmic, Riftmaker of course if I'm buying something else. Riftmaker is just kind of a mandatory item for SYLAS at some point in the build pretty much. Or just like any kind of AD bruiserish item. I'm gonna have a guide at some point, of course you guys can get a better idea, but just briefly so I can explain it here. Essentially you just need one mana item, second item I like to build something tanky, third item I like to buy some damage. And that's just gonna give you good spikes to keep your threat relevant and also keep you in this kind of unkillable-ish state. Very similar to Volibear, I have to say, just press W, targeted healing, hit enemies, but a bit less conditional. Because on Volibear you have to mark someone, while SYLAS just has to press W on anyone. And has a little bit more in combat mobility, as in you can switch from target to target a little bit easier if you just hit some ease. Makes it easier to utilize Sundered Sky as well. But anyways, let's speed things up a bit. The item is about to stack. And look, it's very easy to keep 10 CS per minute. Because I had a good game in the early game. Because I was able to just clear faster because I'm maxing Q. That's what Q max gives you, 10 CS per minute. And even in mid-game you're clearing faster than the people that max W into E, which is what pretty much everybody does. It's like the most common SYLAS skill order. And there are a couple of things that I like about the Q overall, is that you can play fights a bit slower, especially in early game when you're not that powerful. You can poke people, participate in fights in different ways, especially if they don't have like a super reliable way to engage. Like a Viego, like he has to channel his W, hit with W. You can, before the fight starts, let's say you're puzzling for an objective, maybe contesting grabs or Drake, right? You can use the Q, remove a bit of HP, and go in on your next Q. Here, I didn't realize that my Rel was not participating in this fight, because if she CCs the enemies, they are essentially dead. But she's not moving here with me. She's sitting over the wall, using her Q on Blitzcrank, trying to get vision on kind of nothing. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, we have control in the pit, so that was fine. She doesn't need to be here. I legit thought she went around and she's with me right now. And I'm going in. I'm super powerful. I want to limit this a bit because I'm just kind of playing for fun. I steal a Blitzcrank R, and unfortunately, Viego can deal too much damage to me. There was a rail just stunning Viego once so I can nuke him. Then I could just be able to out-sustain everyone. A little bit of a L9 pings there. Happens. I told my rel to build a Beastle. We argued a bit in chat level 1. Like, actually I want to be Locket. And I'm like, bro, Blitzcrank can break the shield anyway with his ult. Why even bother? We're like, we have a lot of magic damage, double AP bot lane. We're like full AP. Just buy a Beastle, please. And he actually ended up buying a Beastle. Nice to see that you can sometimes communicate with your teammates and fix their mistakes, or just give them some advice, and yeah, sometimes they listen. Not a big deal. So this item is basically stacked. Once I'm gonna get into a fight, I'm gonna have the shield. It's very easy to proc. You just have to land a Q, not even the E, just a Q, or have red buff. And it's just an extra bonus. Of course, it can end up being a lot of health. You can tank even thousands, despite this item being nerfed with the shield in a team fight. And here you'll see that you can be very oppressive. Like, I don't think SYLAS scales insanely well, especially with this build. But you can be super oppressive, because right now, especially when I'm ahead, enemies don't have enough damage, they don't have an AD carry in the backline, and I have super good ultimates to steal. I can essentially almost 1v5 them. What are you supposed to? I get armor from the Jax ult, I get a lot of damage. This guy is not moving my HP bar. I'm just healing all of his damage. I'm full life, tanking a Jax for 3 years. It's not the strongest Jax, but it's a Jax. We play Jax here. You guys know how much damage this character does. Super high DPS character. But yeah, my HP is full this whole fight, and I can essentially get to the stage where I can 1v5 the enemies. And you could argue like this is not the hardest game ever. I'm gonna have more games to the channel, maybe where my team goes 0-20 early game. But even in games where your teammates are doing really bad, it doesn't mean that the enemies are going to be super far ahead or anything. If you are doing things correctly, it's normal from game to game to have these games where you have 10 CS per minute, you got some kills, and you're going to get a lot of items. And here I ended up building Jaksho, which is just going to make all of the sustain that I have from all of these items and my W. And by the way, I also go green pet, because I want to be as statucky as possible. And what I like about green pet is that SYLAS doesn't have any sustain, so I can actually use the green pet to tank camps and heal off camps a lot easier. Right, because I don't have any actual healing on camps. And this is just what's gonna happen. The only way they could deal with me right now is if they have a marksman that can DPS me from the backline with a mortal reminder. About 3 items. At least 3 items. You have to have mortal reminder, maybe Kraken or Borg or whatever, and some other crit DPS item or whatever. It could be an all-hit AD carry, doesn't really matter. Point is, I am immortal, and I'll show you in a second what being immortal means. And if you're wondering, like, bro, why are you building tanky on SYLAS? Does this actually make any sense? Doesn't have like good AP ratios? Well, Riot nerfed his AP ratios and they gave him more HP ratios, and the kit just makes a lot of sense as a bruiser, because you have to tank spells as SYLAS. You have to go full melee into enemies. You don't really have like ways out, you don't have ways to dodge damage, you just go in and hit people with your slap chains. So you have to be as durable as possible, ideally. And if you find the good itemization, depending on the game, if you understand when to pick this character and what are his strengths and weaknesses, then you're going to just be a strong bruiser, kind of juggernautish character, even. I would say, because you can kind of hit any type of target and you still have super high DPS that isn't really comparable to kind of other characters while building tanky. And here I went for even more tankiness, because I just wanted to... You don't have to build another tank item necessarily. I like building Jackshot because it's just a very good capstone to multiply everything, but I could have just went more damage here. The point is that I'm trying to make it even harder for enemies to play. You can also go Horizon Focus because it gives you so much base damage for a cheap item. I had the gold for it, and then I could sell it later for something more expensive. Point is, I'm just doing this. And if you think that tank SYLAS with 3 tank items, I wouldn't call it tank. It's just like you're playing a fighter build, not a nuker, skirmisher, assassin-ish style, right? If you think that it doesn't deal damage, well, these people are getting one-shot. These guys upgraded Mercs with Shieldbow and he died pretty much instantly, and Zigzag's full life and he also died instantly. Also, you just gotta keep in mind that certain ultimates deal more damage than others, so that also contributes to you being able to nuke people. But I'm just... If you guys want a replay on this one, I'm going into their tower and I'm just killing them in their tower while tanking the tower the whole time. And this guy pretty much got deleted by 3 tank items SYLAS. And even like Rift and Thunder Scar are like the highest damage items. But the base damages are good. Like if you just look at numbers, sure, we are not being honest here. We got an AP potion, we got a Baron. So I have a lot more damage than normal, but attack and flowers, whatever, sure, I'm super strong. This is just ideal scenario. But this is what happens to me on SYLAS every other game. I tried him in higher elos as well. This is not like super high elo, but it's way higher elo than probably most viewers just by statistical measures. And if you just look at the numbers, the passive does 335 damage, the Q does, well, like 700 damage, W 400 damage, E 533, and then whatever ult you steal, for example, Blitz and GXR have insane base damages. So you're not lacking damage. You have a sustainability. That's just like the metric that you're using to justify this kind of build. Hey, my base damages are good. I can live a lot longer by building like this. What's bad about building tanky on SYLAS? Well, pretty much nothing. And the degree at which you decide your composition, as in how many tank items you buy versus how many damage items you buy, really depends on the game. But I still really believe that if you generally build some kind of tank items like Iceborne Gauntlet, Abyssal Mask, Fimbulwinter as your second item, you're just gonna unleash your potential a lot easier and be super oppressive in early-ish mid-game. And I'm dying here a little bit too much. Limit is not a big deal. And as my last item, I did something a little bit strange, which is Overlord's Bloodmail. What's the deal with this item? Well, right now it gives me 100 AD. As I said, the passive scales really well with AD, so now the passive does a gigantic billion damage. So if I'm going to low health and I stack this item, it's just gonna be like, I don't know, getting close to 200 extra damage on my passive or something. And because I also have 550 HP, the best way to scale your W healing is with HP. And this is a pretty high HP item. For example, if I would buy Dead Cap, you don't have much HP, but even on higher HP build, it still doesn't give you that much healing because the HP ratio is overall higher than the AP ratio if you think about like per gold cost. But anyways, let's not make this video too long. I hope you guys enjoyed the explanation. I hope you enjoyed this different way to play the game. This is what I like to do on this channel. Show you guys different builds and different ways, and in my opinion, I would argue, I think this is the best way to play SYLAS, as a bruiser, not as an AP assassin, not as some kind of skirmisher. And of course, depending on the game, you can mix things. There are games where I build a lot more ability power than this. There are also some kind of like AD variations you can do that other people have caught on, with stuff like Spill Shojin and even some surprise item that you might see at some point of this channel, only if you drop a subscribe. And don't forget that I also do coaching. I'm a coach. It's not super cheap, but you guys can check out my Discord, check out my stream, and you'll see there more details, links, whatever it is. You can just find me on socials. You can message me if you want to set up a coaching session. We can talk more about items, but of course the main focus is gameplay, so you guys can learn how to get this consistent 10 CS per minute. Although there's a lot of free information. There's also my Patreon where there are coaching sessions being posted. And if you don't want to buy a coaching session, if you think you can't afford it or you don't know what to expect, you just buy my Patreon tier for like a lot less and see some other coaching sessions there. But anyways, guys, I enjoyed talking about this. I'm pretty passionate about my SYLAS. I love this champion, and despite it being nerfed, I think it's still very strong for me. I understand that most people will probably drop playing SYLAS if they were playing him a bit, kind of like a flavor of the month thing. That's a champion with quite a bit of depth, although not like super mechanically intensive character. And also these builds make him a bit more forgiving. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye, friends.